Hello everyone and welcome to Volleyball Essentials. Differences between volleyball and the past and present. Just to give you a bit of a background and point of reference, this is based on my experience as someone who has played indoor volleyball in high school in the 90s. So I'm going as far back as the last 15, 16 or 20 years. The primary and most impacting change that has taken place in volleyball has definitely got to be, in my opinion, the introduction of the libero player. This player right here, this funky colored player who wears a different colored jersey from the rest of his or her teammates, is the libero, and replaces the middle blocker in the back row when playing defense, because the libero is a defensive specialist. And I have another segment that talks in more detail about the libero. That's change number one, the libero position. We did not have a libero back when I played high school volleyball. Another major change would have to be the way that the games are scored. Back then, we used to play 3 sets and you had to win 2 out of the 3 sets. Each set was up to 15 points, and you still had to have a differential of a minimum of 2 points per set for you to have won that set. So for example, 15-13, 16-14, 17-15, and so on and so forth. Nowadays, they use a system called rally scoring. So in rally scoring, for volleyball, you play up to 5 sets, and you have to win 3 out of the 5 sets. The first 4 sets are played up to 25 points. If the teams are tied at the end of the 4th set, in other words, this team has won 2 sets and the other team has won the other 2 sets, then you play a 5th and final match up to 15 points, the tiebreaker. And again, each of those sets, just like in the old days, has got to be won with a differential of at least 2 points. So for example, if set number 3 is 24-24, then this team has got to score 26 points at least, so that they can win 26-24, or 27-25, 28-26, so on and so forth. With regards to the scoring, back then, you could only score a point if you had service, i.e., if this team over here serves the ball and the score is 0-0, for example, this team serves, boom, and then, for example, we bump receive the ball, and I know that they're out of configuration right now, but that's another segment where I talk about the 5-on rotation. But bump receive, and then set, and then spike, and poof, it hits the floor. This team would not automatically get 1 point. This team would then have to serve the ball, so setter gets in the serving position because this is the starting lineup, and then the setter would then have to serve. The score is still 0-0. The setter would then have to serve, and then if this team does not win the rally, that's when this team would have made their first point, then becoming 1-0. But you only scored on the service. Nowadays, with rally scoring, whenever a rally ends, then whoever wins that rally, whether they just had the service or not, will automatically get a point. They don't have to wait until the service. Another change that has taken place has got to do with what body parts can you use to hit the ball. Back then when I played ball, the traditional rules, you could only use any body parts from the waist up. So primarily your arms, of course, or your chest, or your head. If you used anything below your waist, whether it was your hips, your thighs, your feet, it was illegal, just to clarify. Nowadays, anything goes. You can use your feet, you can use your thigh, you can use your chest, arms, head, it doesn't matter as long as you follow the rules of volleyball, of course. No double contacts, no carry, and so on and so forth. Another change that has taken place has got to do with the service. Nowadays, the rules state that you can actually serve. So for example, let's put the setter here in the service position. This is the original starting lineup. The setter can use the entire width of the end line, all 9 meters, to serve that ball. So the setter could actually start serving over here, traditionally where we used to serve, but it also could serve here, or here, or here, wherever she wants to serve from. That's perfectly fine. Back then, this little mark right here would actually be here. Used to be right there. So you only had 10 feet to serve that ball. The setter could have only moved within this area. The stripes that are now all the way over here used to be only in this limited area. If the setter wanted to step outside of that zone and say, for example, serve from here, the other team would have gotten the serve then. Also, on the service, you were allowed a do-over back then. So for example, if the setter was going to serve, the setter tosses the ball up in the air, and then she feels like, nah, the ball's too far away from me. The setter would just let the ball drop on the floor, like that, without touching it, and then the referees will give the setter a do-over. The setter would toss the ball up in the air a second time, and boom, hit that ball and serve it across to the other team. Nowadays, that's no longer the case. So unfortunately, you only get one and only one toss to get that ball across. So if the setter tosses the ball up in the air, if the ball is too far away, too close to the body, too much to the left or too much to the right, no matter where that ball is, you better hope and pray that that ball then goes over the other side as you attempt to serve that ball. The rules in the old days, as far as the net is concerned, when serving, you could not touch the net at all. So back then, I'm going to use my 3-dimensional net right here. So let's take a section of this net and bring it over here just so that you can see. This is the top of the net, the mesh, and the bottom of the net. Back then, if this setter right here served the ball, and if the ball barely even scraped, just scraped the top of the net and went over to the other team, automatic illegal serve, or bad serve I should say, the other team would get the serve. Nowadays, this setter can serve that ball. This ball can literally touch the top of the net and literally barely just tumble over to the other side, and guess what? It's a good serve. Those net violations from the old days are long gone on the serve. You could always touch the net as long as it goes over. That's perfectly fine, which gave the teams a huge advantage when it comes to being saved by the bell and that ball barely crossing over. Another thing with regards to the serve, this is not necessarily a change in the rules, but it's a change in the habit that I have seen over the years. Back then, a lot of players, especially the ones that I would say were perhaps more like amateurs, not very advanced, or even intermediate players, used to serve the ball underhand. So you would make a fist, and if this is the ball, for example, you would make a fist, and you would, boom, bump the ball over, and then serve that ball. Nowadays, I see that less and less and less, so that even amateurs usually toss the ball up in the air and they serve it overhand with their hand open. It is still legal to this day to serve it underhand like that, but it's just a habit that has really just gone down the tube. Other changes that have taken place have got to do with the double contact. Now, back when I played in high school again, you were not allowed to have a double contact with the ball at all, which means that if at any given point, if say for example this team was doing a jump serve or they were doing an attack of the ball and the ball came across, if your body had a double contact on the first hit or the second or the third hit, then the referees would call you out on it. Nowadays, an unintentional double contact on the first hit is allowed. It has to be unintentional. For example, this player right here from the opposite side is going to attack the ball from here, from their outside. So if this player attacks the ball and the ball comes at such a fast speed that whoever is playing right here, it'll typically be a libero. So say, for example, if the libero is right here and the libero is the one that digs that ball and, plays it well, and say, for example, if the ball hits first one arm and then the other arm, so pow, or the ball hits both forearms and then bounces off the chest, so pow, and then the ball goes pow and then floats up to the setter. That's a perfectly legal play. Again, on the first hit only, it was unintentional because it happens in succession, boom, boom, and that's when it's allowed and it's a good, fair play. But on the second hit or the third hit, you're not allowed a double contact. Last but not least, I'm going to talk about substitutions. Now, if I'm not mistaken, when I played, we were only allowed 6 substitutions per set. Nowadays, the FIVB, the International Federation of Volleyball, still only allows 6 substitutions per set in international volleyball. To take it further, the USAV, United States Association of Volleyball, allows 12 substitutions per set, and so does the NCAA. To take it even further, high school volleyball nowadays allows 18 substitutions per set. 18 substitutions. Like back then, that was just unheard of, unfathomable. So it has given players and teams and coaches a lot more freedom and flexibility, so long as they do not exceed the maximum. Typically 12, high school volleyball 18, and that's per set, not for the entire game. So I think that's pretty much it, and that wraps it, folks, for changes in volleyball in recent years. If you can think of any other changes, please feel free to leave a comment and let me know. Thank you very much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed it.